All right, welcome everyone. My name is Charles T. Brown, Vice Chair of the Franklin Township Planning Board. Welcome to this Planning Board regular meeting tonight. It is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. The time is 7:31 p.m. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Planning Board of the Township has been provided. Board members, applicants, professionals, and members of the public, please speak directly in the microphones so that our recording secretary can properly process minutes. Applicants and professionals, please fill out the sheet on the table when you have completed your testimony. We're now going to move into the Pledge of the Allegiance. Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which is one nation, under God, indivisible.
Okay, so this evening we had a couple people asked to be excused. Councilman Embarrasson, Erica Inocencio, Mahir Rafiq, and Chairman Orsini. Theodore Chase? Here. I don't see Sammy Shaban. Jennifer Ragnow? Here. Mustafa Manzray. Charles Brown?
Here.
Robert Thomas?
Here.
Rebecca Hilbert? Here.
Thank you. We're now going to move into reviewing the regular meeting minutes from July 26, 2023. Christine, who's eligible to?
Only Rebecca, who's here. Only Rebecca is not allowed to vote, so anybody else can make the first and second.
Move the minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Theodore Chase?
Yes.
Jennifer Ragnow?
Yes.
Charles Brown?
Yes.
Robert Thomas?
Yes.
For the minutes of 9/6, Jennifer cannot vote, so anybody else can make the first and second.
Move the minutes.
I'll second.
Moving and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll do it that way.
Oh, okay.
All opposed? Seeing none, let's move on. No resolution tonight, no public comments, no discussion. Oh, public comments, my bad. Long trip. Public comments, can I get a motion to open it up to the public for general planning comments?
So moved. Second.
Would anyone like to come forward at this time for general planning comments? Seeing none.
Seeing no one, move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, let's move on. Discussion, no discussion tonight. Anything, Mark, right? Nothing? All right, we have one hearing tonight. It's at Puleo International, Inc., PLN 220006, for a preliminary and final major site plan with C variances in which the applicant seeks approval for a construction of an 80,515 square foot warehouse at Atrium Drive Extension, Block 46801, Lot 21.13 in Zone BI.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for a site plan approval with certain bulk variances for a warehouse, as you indicated. This application was filed in February of 2022 prior to the amendments to the zoning ordinance, and therefore is being reviewed as a permitted use in the BI zone. This application, unlike probably most of the applications that I presented and that you've heard, is a little bit different in that this is not a spec warehouse. This is a warehouse that is being proposed for a specific user who is looking to move his business into Franklin Township. So I will present testimony concerning the company, its business, and then I do have my site engineer, my architect, my traffic consultant, and my planner to deal with the site plan portion of the application. Having said that, I would like to call Chris Pulio, please. Raise your right hand. Your mouth.
So I solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Name and address for the record, please.
Christopher Pulio, 180 Peachcroft Drive, Bernardsville, New Jersey, 07924.
You can be seated. Chris, you are a principal in Pulio International, Inc.?
I am.
Okay, and can you briefly tell the board a little bit about the history of Pulio International?
Sure.
And also just, this is being recorded, so hold the microphone as close to your mouth as possible.
Okay. So Pulio International is a family business. It's our family's business. It was started in 1955 in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and we are primarily a seasonal products company, and our dominant category is Christmas products. We manufacture and distribute and sell Christmas trees and all sorts of Christmas decor. And then we also have other product categories such as lawn and garden, floral, and some counter-seasonal items as well. As I said, the company was started in 1955. It was started by my grandmother in a garage in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We then manufactured Christmas trees in Elizabeth, New Jersey for 37 years. And the company has thankfully and steadily grown over time. We are now based in South Plainfield, not too far down the road from here. And we have offices overseas as well, where our products are also sourced. We are, I think I mentioned, we are in the third generation. My brothers have joined here tonight as well. And we are looking and hoping to move to Franklin Township because our business continues to grow. We have a presence in Franklin Township already for some contract warehousing. So we're already here in the area in some capacity. And we hope to make this our new home for our business.
Okay. Chris, at the present time, how many employees do you have?
We have 20 employees in South Plainfield.
Okay, and those employees would then relocate over to the new facility?
Correct. It's a short distance, so thankfully the current team would be willing to relocate here.
Okay, and you indicated that your company manufactures or produces the trees. There will be no manufacturing done here in Franklin Township, is that correct?
That's correct. It would just simply an office and warehouse space.
Okay, regarding the operations, how does your product arrive to the facility?
The product is shipped in 40-foot containers from overseas, and since our company, our biggest category is Christmas, most of the product will arrive throughout the year, but then is sold in the fourth quarter since it's primarily a Christmas product.
And once it arrives at the facility, it then gets outsourced to your customers?
It does. We have a portion of our business where we ship directly to our customers from overseas, and then we have a portion of our business where it comes into New Jersey and then gets distributed to our customers.
Okay, and can you indicate to the board what type of customers you distribute to?
Sure. So we deal with most national retailers, such as Walmart, Costco, Target, et cetera, all the way down to your local garden centers.
And do you also have an online presence?
We do. Our online business is growing, and that is one of the drivers of needing additional space. It's the brick and mortar business is changing, and as you probably all know, online is becoming more popular, so that's a growth area for our company.
Now, you indicate that your product comes in on 40-foot containers. How does it leave your site primarily?
It leaves our site in a few different ways, whether by UPS or FedEx or by a tractor trailer.
And when you indicated that your product comes in all year long, what do you anticipate the average inflow of tractor trailers is on a daily basis during the year?
So for about 10 months out of the year, the inflows are smaller. They're relatively minor, less than 5 trucks. Then for about 2 months out of the year, from mid-October to mid-December, it's about less than 10 trailers per day during that time for outbound.
Okay. And again, these are not the WB-73s. These are the smaller trailers that they come in on.
That's correct. And that would also include UPS vans and FedEx vans.
And are you a 24/7 operation, or what are your hours?
We have, for the office, standard hours, 9 to 5. Warehouse staff will get in a little bit earlier during our peak season. Those 2 months in the fourth quarter, they get in from 7 o'clock and then finish up a little bit earlier in the day.
Okay. So you have basically one shift.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we are not a 24-hour
Okay.
operation.
And do you have any weekend hours?
The only time that there may be some weekend hours required is during that peak period where we may need to get some shipments out simply because Christmas trees have have to arrive by, of course, Christmas. So there are some periods normally within the month of November where we may need some extra help on the weekends, some extra time rather.
And can you project, you indicate you have currently 20 employees both in the warehouse and in your office in South Plainfield. How many employees do you envision adding on once this facility is completed?
Sure. So in the new facility, we're projecting approximately 30 to 35 people would be the new staffing requirement. Like I said before, thankfully the 20 people would come over, and then we'd add 10 to 15 on top of that.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Hi. So now that your employees are moving over to this potential facility, what's happening to your old one?
Well, the old facility is very small. It's 15,000 square feet, which includes a portion of office and warehouse. So we actually outgrew that facility years ago. We're bursting at the seams there, but that building would likely be rented out.
Okay. Thank you. Just curious.
Go ahead, sir.
Will there be any assembly of the trees on site?
No, none at all. All of that is currently done overseas. The items will arrive in New Jersey or in those containers completely assembled, packaged, and ready to go right out the door when needed.
Will there be any retail sales at the property?
No, we don't have any sort of dedicated retail space. It's not something that we plan on doing. In the past, we've done a warehouse sale for some of our samples from our showroom were left over, but that's not something that we necessarily plan to continue. It's just something that we've done in past years in our current facility.
If the board were to approve the application, would you accept that as a voluntary condition of the approval?
Yes.
Is there any potential for the return of product?
We do get some returns. The volume is not high. I'm going to estimate maybe in its current form, maybe 4 to 5 trailer loads a year of return product, which is a relatively small percentage compared to how much is going out.
Where's the site in South Plainfield?
It's on Kennedy Road, off of,
South Clinton?
if you know where South Clinton is, you take a right on St. Nicholas, and then you take a left on to Kennedy.
Thank you.
Will any events be held at the site, community-oriented events around Christmas time?
We've never held any events at our facility, but what we have done is we've supported the town with decorations for their facilities. We donate to certain events, holiday events that, our products would help out to celebration.
Your current employees, how do they typically arrive to work currently?
Almost all of them drive.
Okay. The other percentage?
Carpool. There's a few of them that carpool, but for the most part, they all drive their own cars.
Thank you. No other questions or comments, Peter, from the board?
Okay. Are you going to wait to open up to the public till after all my witnesses testify? Because the rules seem to sometimes change from
Yeah.
application to application, so perhaps we ought to get an understanding of what we're doing
It's getting
tonight.
closer to Christmas, so how would you like it?
It probably would make sense for me to go through all my witnesses and then have all my witnesses available for public questioning if
That's what
there
I
is
was
any.
thinking. Okay.
You know, Pete, it's all about location.
And also, I think tonight, we outnumber you, which hasn't been the case for the last couple months.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll wait, Peter. Yeah, let's wait.
Okay. Yeah, you can go back, thank you. My next witness is Mr. Stiers.
Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes, I do. Name and address, please.
Craig Stiers, 43 West High Street, Somerville.
Mr. Stiers, what is your occupation?
Professional engineer.
And you're licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yep.
Have your
Yes.
credentials changed in any way since you were last accepted by this board?
Last month, no.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Mr. Stiers, as you indicated, you were here last month, and actually, the project that you handled last month is adjacent to this property, is it not?
That's correct.
Okay. There's also, I think probably to put everything into context for the board, can you describe this lot, how it was created, and the surrounding land uses? Because I believe you were involved in all of those applications.
Well, going back to, and I think I said it the last application for the adjacent, is the original property was created in the mid-'80s. It was called the Atrium at Somerset, and created, I believe, a total of 9 commercial lots, mainly for offices. All of these properties were built out, with the exception of this particular property. This property was originally 2 lots. It went from Atrium Drive all the way to 287, basically splitting it in half. Subsequent to that, probably, I guess, 7, 8 years ago, the applicant came in for the hotel, which is shown on the, the rendering that was on the screen. There we go. Jim, you want me to mark that, or?
Is it the same as what was submitted, other than coloring?
Yes, it's really a compilation of the landscape plan. It's a colored plan.
It's a
version.
compilation?
Yes.
A1, please.
Got it. So A1 is a colored version of the site plan, essentially compiling everything together. You can see the landscaping, the site layout, the buildings, et cetera. So going back to the introduction, in the upper left-hand corner, you see the Hampton Inn. That is the hotel that is currently under construction. So we got that approved back then, I believe, in 2015, which included a minor subdivision. So it broke off that particular lot, and then the remainder was essentially this lot and to the southeast or the lower portion of the plan. It also created a 50-foot private easement along the bottom side of the hotel property, which was the access to the remaining lands. Subsequent to that, we came in for another application to subdivide those remaining lands into the lot that you see now, which now became 21.13, which is 4.8 acres, and to the southeast, another lot, which was 7 acres. It also extended the 50-foot easement all the way to the right-of-way of 287 and became known as Atrium Drive Extension. And that provided access to this lot as well as the lot to the southeast. Keep going.
Well, all right, just a couple of quick questions, and then we can, the lot to the southeast that was before this board a couple months ago, that is also a warehouse?
Yes.
Okay, actually, it's more than one warehouse.
Yes, you can see on the lower portion of the rendering on the screen that this building right here is the smaller building that was approved last month of the Woodmont application.
Okay, and the access easement, which you call Atrium Drive Extension, on whose property is that located?
As it passes through the hotel, it is on the hotel property. Once it crosses out of the hotel property, it is on the Woodmont property. Woodmont bought the 7-acre lot, which was to the southeast. And then that will ultimately be merged with 21.06, which is the one currently with the 5-story office building. So essentially, 21.14, I guess, goes away.
Okay.
And the only thing remaining for access is to the Pulio lot, which is the application tonight.
Okay, so the Woodmont application, how do people gain access to that lot?
Hold on a second. Does you want me at A2, Jim? So what this is a colored version, colored rendering with an aerial on the beneath it. So that. So you can see right here, this is the Pulio lot, the application tonight. This is the hotel currently under construction. This piece all the way to Route 287, the wooded piece, as well as the office and the parking, is the Woodmont application. They would enter their site, they're going to have this bulb removed, and this would be their driveway between two buildings. So they have access off of Atrium Drive on this side, as well as to the south. So there's two branches off of Atrium Drive. They have access off of both of them.
So that the Atrium Drive extension, which is on the hotel lot and on the Woodmont lot, will basically be a roadway or an easement solely for Pulio. No one else would use that or need it, is that correct?
Right, it's essentially a driveway for the Pulio site.
Okay. All right, now let's go back to the site plan. Can you take the board through what we are proposing as far as a building? And I'll have the architect go into the building itself shortly, but describe what we are proposing, methods of ingress and egress, parking, so that the board has all of that information.
Okay, so as we just went through, this is Atrium Drive extension, so essentially the driveway into the site. You can see that the driveway circulates all the way around the building, so we have adequate circulation for the trucks, as well as emergency vehicles. There are 19 physical parking spaces here on the southeast side of the building, 22 on the northeast side, for a total of 41 physical spaces. There are 2 ADA spaces and 1 EV space in this location here. So with that EV space, technically we have 42 spots. In the back of the building, we have 6 loading docks, and then we have 1 drive-in dock. They are angled so that we have better circulation and maneuverability in the back of the building, so that the trucks can maneuver in and then pull out, circulate, and back out to Atrium Drive. The building itself is just under, square footage-wise, as far as floor area, is just under 82,000 square feet. You can see most of this line here is the limit of the office space in the front of the building. And then you have warehouse space, actually the entire footprint. So the office space is actually elevated above the entire footprint of the warehouse. Going into, as far as the stormwater management,
Before we go into that, with respect to the loading docks, are they designed to handle a WB 73?
WB 67, but we are restricting it to WB 62. That was one of the things that we've been through. This is the 4th iteration as far as submitting to the township, either through zoning changes or stormwater changes. So in my response to CME was that we would restrict the trucks accessing the site to WB 62s.
And basically, based on the testimony of Mr. Pulio this evening and your discussions with Pulio International in preparing the plans, that's sufficient for their use. They don't get the WB 67s. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the drive-in door is for basically pickups and smaller drop-offs is.
Yeah, and it's typical of a warehouse. If something happens inside the building, you always want to be able to get into the building. So it's, you could have forklifts or things like that. You need to get in or out of the building. So it's more the accessibility to get inside the building. Otherwise, you just have 4-foot loading docks. So it makes it difficult for that type of access.
Okay. Before we get into stormwater, how are we handling trash?
We have, in between the 3 loading docks, there is a compactor in this location.
Okay. Talk to the board about lighting.
We have lighting coming in the driveway or coming in Atrium Drive extension, and then lighting throughout the site that complies with the ordinance.
And you indicated that the exhibit that is before the board incorporates or shows the landscaping plan. Can you briefly talk to the board about the landscaping that we are proposing?
Sure. I think the big crux of it is, and again, the 4th iteration, we worked with Mark as far as his comments each time, and I hope we're good with it, but you can see there's an extensive amount of landscaping along the 287 right-of-way. So the site will be well buffered if it's approved and constructed. We also have landscaping along the back. We have a landscaping between the hotel and the site itself. There's also landscaping within the basins, which we'll go into. And lastly, we did not have any landscaping along Atrium Drive extension, but due to the fact that when we did the hotel site, these proposed trees here are part of that project. So these were approved and will be installed when the project is completed. Same thing on the opposite side. You can see the extensive amount of essentially street trees and landscaping on the Woodmont property. So we feel that there's adequate landscaping already proposed and approved for this portion of Atrium Drive extension. And then lastly, I mean, there is landscaping here, just supplemental buffering from 287. But below that, to the southeast, these are the detention basins for the Woodmont property, so there's really nothing to buffer in that location.
Okay. Now, moving on to the issue of stormwater. When this project was first started in 2020, well, the application was submitted in 22, you started in 21. There were certain regulations regarding stormwater management. And when you designed the project, you designed it consistent with those regulations.
Yes.
Okay. And there were discussions between you and the township concerning that stormwater, and there were numerous revisions made back and forth over the last year and a half.
Correct.
Recently, the DEP enacted new stormwater regulations, did they not?
They did.
And when did they go into effect?
July 17th, 2023.
Okay, and did the township enact an ordinance recently requiring that all unapproved applications be subject to those new DEP regulations?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and as a result of that ordinance, did you again redesign the stormwater management plan?
Yes.
Okay, and you submitted that to Mr. Mazzi and have had conversations with him regarding that plan?
Yes.
So that the stormwater management plan that is currently before the board and seeking approval is based on the new DEP regulations?
Correct.
Okay. Can you describe what the stormwater management plan is that we are proposing?
So with the stormwater regulations implemented in March 2nd, 2021, they're further refined, obviously. They implemented the green infrastructure. So that limited the drainage areas, I think is really one of the biggest things to each of the basins. So you had to have smaller basins closer to the source, as they say. So we did design, there, you can see there's a small bioretention basin in the, I guess at the southwesterly corner of the building. There's one on the northeasterly corner of the building. There's a basin on the southerly side of the building. There's a small bioretention basin in this location here, and then ultimately a large-scale bioretention basin in the northeast corner. So those all complied with the previous regulations. One of the back and forth that we had with CME was the confirming there's no recharge on the site. Just from the soil, so we had to reclassify the soil. So we had multiple rounds of testing to comply with the DEP procedures in order to get it reclassified. So again, we got that all worked out. So with the latest changes with the DEP, they're tied to the flood hazard rules that were changed July 17th. Those changes required you to perform a design of today's standards with a increased rainfall rate, and then also design it to the year 2100 with a further increase of the rainfall rates, which we have done. We have done both, so this is 3 or 4 iterations, and we have comments from CME. Obviously, there's comments about details and things like that, but we believe that the design complies with the new regs, and that we would, as a condition of approval, continue to work with CME to get those final details that they were looking for to, get them to sign off on it.
Couple other points to cover. We are seeking some variances.
Yes.
Okay. Can you indicate to the board what the variances are so that Mr. O'Brien ultimately can opine on them?
And one last thing with the stormwater, probably even bigger hurdle than, believe it or not, the state regs, is we had to comply with the DNR Canal Commission. So that, we have a conditional approval of that. The only condition is provide the resolution and update the tree listing, which obviously is not, but they have approved the stormwater design. As far as the variances, the Route 287 frontage is considered a front yard. So this little piece right here of the access driveway is within that front yard, so we would need a variance for a front yard setback. And then this section right here, so it's essentially the ADA spaces and the EV space are also within the front yard, so that would be a variance there for the front yard. We have the parking, or the loading area is supposed to be twice the length of the trucks. So with the 69-foot length, we would need 138 feet. We have 128 feet. But it should be noted in the review from CMA, they are acceptable of the layout the way we had it. So it would require a variance, but CME has kind of acknowledged that it's an acceptable layout. And the last thing is that we have in this location right here a site identification sign. So the sign complies, however, it's on a separate lot. And obviously it's out front here because of the long stem and the site being so far off the private road. So it's really back in, way in the back of the site. But it is this location, so we would need a variance for putting the sign on the adjacent lot.
Now, you mentioned the CME report. There actually have been numerous iterations of reports from CME. The last one was September 28th, 2023. You've had an opportunity to review that report?
Yes.
And all of the recommendations and comments contained therein, those changes you can make to the plan?
Yes. I mean, with the first couple of iterations, we were at probably 10 or 15 pages and 55 comments, so we've really whittled it down. And if you look, the first couple pages are their general comments, but the remaining stuff, we can continue to work with them to get the details that they need.
Okay, and in making those changes, do they in any way substantially alter what the board is reviewing this evening?
No.
Okay. We also have a report from Mr. Healy, and he identifies in his report the variances, and then he talks about the fact that with respect to the parking variances, one of the suggestions is the buffering and screening. I know you've sort of testified to it in your overall plan, but can you, in response to Mr. Healy's comment, indicate how we are screening the parking from 287? And just for the record, that portion of 287 adjacent to this property is the exit ramp of 287. It's not 287 itself, correct?
Right, it's exit 10 going on to Easton Avenue.
Okay. And just, again, for the record, how we are screening that parking from that exit ramp?
Well, it's kind of two things. Obviously, like I said before, we have substantial plantings along the 287 border. It's a mix of evergreens and deciduous trees. The other thing is that the site itself, the parking lot, is elevated from the exit ramp. So not only do you have that visual of horizontal, but vertical being above it. So you're coming off 287, coming down to Easton Avenue. It's highly unlikely that you would even see the parking lot coming off of there.
Okay, and again, even though probably nobody other than people that are coming to our site would ever use that roadway, do we screen the parking as we enter the site from the roadway?
Yes. Again, there's not just plantings along the parking lot here, but there's also plantings on the inside, as well as there are trees that are in the detention basin, which would aid in that buffering.
There are also a couple of other comments concerning the maintenance of Atrium Drive. What is your understanding of how Atrium Drive will be maintained?
Atrium Drive extension.
Extension, I'm sorry.
It's my understanding when we created the subdivision, we didn't know how these properties were going to be developed in the future, is that we extended the maintenance responsibilities of Atrium Drive to Atrium Drive extension. So it's very similar as far as the maintenance and the shared maintenance of it.
So that ultimately, right now, Atrium Drive itself is a private road. It is maintained by
Privately.
privately. The snow removal is done privately, and this will be part of that same process.
Yes.
Okay. Police had no comment. I think the Health Department had no comment, and I believe Mr. House had no comment. So I think we covered all of the reports, so I have no further questions of
About
Mr.
the
Stiers.
Environmental Commission.
The Environmental Commission talked about solar panels. That's not Mr. Stiers. The Environmental talked about tree removal. Basically, if you want to go into, I think we've basically are replacing more trees than we're taking out, so we've dealt with their comment there. And anti-idling signs, we have no problem installing those.
Yes.
Board, are there any questions? Go ahead.
Well, one comment the Environmental Commission often makes, and I'm sure the Vice Chair would support this, is to have a bicycle rack in case any employees actually bicycle to the site. May or may not happen, but it's not a big thing.
I'm sure Mr. Stiers can find a place to put a bicycle rack on the site should some employees bicycle to work.
Thank you.
We want the location of said bike rack to be in a place that's dignified. We don't want it next to the trash can.
You got it.
All right. Any other questions? Comments? Yes.
I actually have a question about the sign variance. So you say it's going to be possibly located on a different site on the hotel's property, or how would that work?
Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit for you. So it's in this location right here, which is at the end of Atrium Drive Extension. So technically, it is in Atrium Drive Extension. While Atrium, it gets complicated because it's a private road. The private road is technically in an easement, and the easement is on the hotel property. So, but if you were to look at this as far as a roadway and a typical right-of-way, it's within the right-of-way of Atrium Drive Extension.
Okay, and for the record, the hotel site is part of the application. We noticed for the sign as part of the hotel site, and the agreement with the hotel operator, if the board needs it, will supply it, allows us to put the sign on that easement.
And just to explain the reason for the variance, if it wasn't clear, when a site is putting up their sign, if AutoZone wants to have an AutoZone sign, they can't put it on the adjoining restaurant site. You put your identification sign on your own property. Because of the circumstances here, what's going to look like their driveway is actually a private road that goes over somebody else's property in an easement. So they're actually putting their sign on the hotel property. So that's technically, that triggers the variance.
Go ahead.
So I realize this is a clarifying question, but I just want to make it clear for myself. With paving, snow plowing, all that kind of stuff, you guys will be taking care of that because it's a private drive and this extension is all part of this property, correct?
It will be taken care of privately. We will not be doing the snow plowing or the road maintenance. There is an association that owns all of the roads. We will be part of that, and they will be doing it. So the township's not doing anything.
Okay. But it will be taken care of
Privately.
regardless of the fact that the township's not taking care of it.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say worst-case scenario, they have to get into their site, so worst-case scenario, they would probably plow their own snow, just to make sure that it's done.
Right.
So-
Okay. Okay.
Jennifer, there's a recorded easement, all right, that obligates the various owners to take care of maintenance, repair, snow removal, et cetera. And I reviewed it, and it's acceptable.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So in the past, on many of these projects, engineers, planners have come in and argued that it is, very important to separate truck traffic from car traffic. You're not doing that here. Set a precedent for me for the reason why you're not. So when future applications come in, you can continue to make my point that it's not necessary to separate them.
Well, that really, they are separated other than just the pass-through. I mean, you can see that, the parking is up here. The trucks do go past, and it's mainly because of really the configuration of the property.
But it is true that they're both entering and exiting at the same point, right?
The trucks would continue, yes, they would come in and then circulate out. The cars have the ability to come out this way, which is southeast to southwest, and then out the driveway.
So they're going to enter and exit the site at the same location, correct?
Right, but they would not commingle with the loading and unloading area.
But they commingle on-site other than that area,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
you got it.
Correct.
And why is that safe? Why are you in favor of that on this site?
Again, it's the nature of the configuration of the site, and it's, one way in and one way out. The other thing is, I think we did try and separate it, but one of the comments was that with the fire official, they wanted circulation all the way around the building. So it kind of, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if we had this driveway here in the beginning, but as the comments continued to, each round, we took care of and knocked off, the concerns of the, each of the departments in the township. But I think, for the most part, yes, they do go by. There's, as Mr. Pulio testified, there's 5 trucks a day, maybe in the busy season, 10. So it's not as opposed to the Woodmont site, it's not a high truck traffic use.
Thank you.
Would it be
Chairman?
safe to,
Hold on a second.
Let me just finish one more thing. I would hope that the applicant's traffic engineer would weigh in on that question.
She's here and ready to weigh in.
All right,
Right.
thank you for that. Go ahead.
but would it also be safe to say that your 20 cars or 25 cars are going to come in and they're going to park, and in this particular use in this location, it would seem that there's virtually next to no auto traffic coming into the site or leaving the site, except that 9, whatever it was, 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. So in terms of traffic movement, they're basically separated by the use, because there's no public, no general public coming back to this site. There's absolutely no, I don't know how you could give me a reason that any driving member of the public would turn down that driveway and come into this site unless it was by mistake.
Right.
Sure.
And it's, I think what you're trying to say is that even the employees would be familiar with the circulation and even the truck traffic. They're going to come and park, but even when they're coming in, they're familiar with the activities on the site itself.
And I'm assuming they're not entering and leaving the site various numbers of times during the day. They come, they work, they leave.
Right.
Well, we'll await your traffic testimony to see if that is indeed true. because in looking at your site, we're not just considerate of your site, but the sites surrounding it.
Yep.
And the sites surrounding it do have traffic coming in and out. And so we have to take into consideration the mix of that traffic with those vehicles that are adjacent to it. Are there any other questions for?
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to respond to Bob and say there would be visitors, and I think we should ask Mr. Palaio how many visitors, how many vendors come to the site.
That's true.
You want me to bring him up to answer that question now?
So this site is, it's just office and warehouse. We don't have a dedicated customer area there. Our customers actually visit us for the most part overseas, in our office overseas. So there's not a regular flow of people that would come and visit. It's
Vendors, anybody trying to sell you something, they don't come?
Not our customer base. Certainly if someone, was to come by and try and sell us, boxes, if we needed to rebox product, things like that may come, but there's not a kind of dedicated traffic or visitors that come to the site.
How often would a vendor come to the site?
Honestly, it's very rare. It's not, because the product arrives finished, there's really not much that we buy for our facility other than things like tape and shrink wrap and bubble wrap. And we usually do that through vendors that we have set up already.
Thank you.
Sure.
One other question on that. You probably cleared this earlier, sir. So you are purely distribution?
Correct. So we are. So everything in the U.S. is purely distribution.
Okay.
Manufacturing, packing, all of that is done overseas.
So what are the employees doing when the product arrives? What's their job on site?
Sure. So we have a shipping team. We also have our online team for our online business. We have a finance team. And myself and my brothers are there, management role, and then we have warehouse staff.
Thank you.
Sure.
I don't know if this is this witness's area of expertise, but maybe we could save time later. Can you make a general statement as to the location of this facility and its proximity to the nearest residential areas? I venture to say that you're going to say there are no residential areas that you can see without binoculars.
There aren't any. Actually, if you're looking in one direction, you'd have to go across World's Fair Drive and ultimately get out to Cedar Grove Lane, which is probably half a mile.
Probably more than that.
Or more.
As the crow flies.
Yeah, as the crow flies. And then the other way, you'd have to go past the Ukrainian Center into southbound Brook, which is probably, again, at least a half a mile away.
Okay, so you're in a completely business, industrial, commercial area.
I mean, you can see from the aerial on the screen there. I mean, it's,
Just putting it on the record.
Well, what do you classify the senior, the nursing home as?
The nursing home is not a residential use. That got a use variance as an assisted living facility.
Yeah, but we would certainly be cognizant of the noise and other things that would potentially impact it in the same way we would for a residential site.
That you, as a planning board, can consider correct.
Right.
oh, you're talking about in this location right here?
Southeast, yes.
Right here? Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, just one
Go
question. So you had mentioned that it's not going to, you're not going to have the larger trucks, but if a larger truck was to show up, physically, what would happen? How would it I guess the question is, what are the limiting factors? Can it make the counterclockwise, path around the building, or and is the limiting point that it just couldn't make it into the loading dock, but then could it still exit the site if it happens to show up?
Well, again, kind of like CME writes in their report, so the WB 62 is 69 feet. The WB 67 is 73 and a half feet. So you're talking about 4 feet. I believe that, I showed the circulation from the worst case scenario, which is this loading position here, circulating out. If a WB 67 came in and, say, for example, pulled into this spot, I believe that they can easily circulate out. They would not be able to make this turn, but if they were in any of the other bays, I believe that they would be able to get out safely.
And they can make the right-hand turn to get back onto Atrium Drive Extension?
Yes.
All right, perhaps if you could also have your traffic engineer just address that as well. Not that I don't believe you, but it's good to have both.
We have one.
I would wonder whether the problem might be that the WD 67 would stick out into the driveway so far that it would be difficult for another truck to get past it.
Again, the difference is 4 feet, so, but, again, we've agreed to the condition that
Yeah.
they'd be 60. If a Rogue One gets in there, I'm just making the statement that I believe that it could circulate and get back out safely.
Yeah.
I just
you
want to
haven't
make sure,
modeled that.
I just want to make sure if it does show up, that it's not hopelessly stuck.
Right.
That's,
Go
All
ahead.
right, the last DRCC report that we have in our package is dated November 18 of 2021, and it says that the application was incomplete. Is there a more subsequent report that's a conditional approval?
Yes, I don't know the specific date.
We will, I don't know if I have it here either, but there is a subsequent report.
Okay.
And normally they copy the town, but if the town doesn't have it or you don't have it, we will supply it to you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, just to clarify, since again, we only have the old copy to look at, but in the report, they said none of the proposed surface stormwater management basins meet the design criteria for BMPs listed within their manual. The new designs you talked about tonight, does that kind of address that issue?
Again, you're talking about the Canal Commission?
Mm-hmm.
The Canal Commission has completely different standards than the state.
Okay.
So we not only had to do one set of standards, but 3 different ones related to the township. And the last comment, like I said, the last review letter, my last response to them was January 23rd, 2023, so the review letter is subsequent to that. And the 2 conditions remaining are to update the tree species to their tree list and the resolution.
Okay.
All right, let's move on, Peter.
Okay, I normally would jump to the architect, but since there are a lot of questions concerning traffic, perhaps we can bring Ms. Dolan up and deal with the traffic issues. And she also just flew in today, and so she wants to go home and go to bed.
You have your hand already raised. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Name and address, please.
Elizabeth Dolan, D-O-L-A-N, Dolan and Dean Consulting Engineers, 181 West High Street in Somerville, New Jersey.
Ms. Dolan, you're a licensed traffic engineer and have been testifying before this board for a few years.
Few years, yes.
And your qualifications have not changed since the last time you testified?
My license is still in good standing.
Accepted.
Okay. Ms. Dolan, your office, under your direction, prepared a report and submitted it with this application in January of 2022.
Yes.
And at that time, actually, the report was based on a even slightly larger building than we are proposing this evening.
90,000 and change versus the 8515 proposed currently.
rather than ask you a bunch of questions, can you, A, review the report with the board as far as trip generations and opinions regarding this site, and then also answer the questions that were raised by both Mr. Thomas and I believe it was Dr. Chase?
Sure. As mentioned, our 2022 traffic study was based on a larger building, and the building area is used to calculate trip generation estimates based on data published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or ITE. So our study analyzed, for the morning peak hour, 27 entering and 8 exiting vehicles for a total of 35 trips. The evening peak hour, 11 entering, 27 exiting, for a total of 38 trips. While that's not considered significant, which is defined in our State Highway Access Management Code as 100 or more trips in an hour, we had prepared a formal analysis using 2021 traffic counts and traffic from the hotel that's in the exhibit on the screen in the north or the top left corner, as well as we were studying and had presented the findings for F&E at 50 Atrium. They had an expansion that was proposed there, plus background traffic growth to accommodate and account for ongoing other area development at that time. What we found is that, of course, access to this overall area is provided on Atrium Drive at Davidson Avenue, and so that's where we prepared a formal analysis. And for the future conditions, we're looking at a level of service C or better for the movements at Davidson Avenue and Atrium Drive. So the overall area has experienced a decrease in traffic. I went back to some of the older traffic counts from Davidson Avenue, for example, used to carry over 2,000 vehicles two-way in the morning peak hour. Now it's down to just over 1,600. So with the change from the office use to the vacancies and now the lower trip generation associated with the warehousing that's popping up to replace the office, we're looking at overall lower traffic volumes, but nevertheless, the analysis shows level of service C coming out of Atrium Drive. So with regard to the questions about circulation, it seems to me for this use that the employees are going to be coming in and pretty much staying all day. Maybe they might run out for lunch, but it's going to be very low turnover in those passenger vehicle spaces along the two sides of the site. And then, of course, the trucks will come counterclockwise to access the loading in the rear. I don't find there to be a problem with this. The overall amount of trucks is nominal. If you look at ITE guidance, they would indicate maybe 1 or 2 trucks in an hour, in a peak hour. So if there were some overlap between the employees coming in and a truck coming in, the site has certainly been designed to allow those passenger vehicles to park up against the building, which means there's no pedestrian crossings of the aisle. So if a truck does come in while someone's getting out of their vehicle or getting into their vehicle, that interaction with the pedestrians and trucks isn't happening. There's no crossover of that activity. And certainly anyone who's waiting to exit a passenger vehicle parking space, if a truck's circulating, the truck's going to be visible. There's plenty of sight lines and also geometry, the pavement width to accommodate the movements. And of course, someone might just have to pause momentarily before they enter or exit a parking space. So I don't see that as a problem. I think the bigger issue is making sure that the circulation is available, which I believe goes to the next question about WB 67s and the circulation. I would point out that legally, the largest wheelbase that's permitted in New Jersey is WB 62.5, and that has to do with the kingpin configuration where the tractor and trailer meet. So there is a physical limitation legally, but if there were a larger tractor trailer, I would concur with Mr. Stiers that it's a very minor increase in overall vehicle length and wheelbase. And in my experience, the truck templates are conservative. I've been at sites, for example, We typically design these truck courts with 100 feet so that the truck can turn around. We did a couple of smaller sites up in the Meadowlands area, up in Bergen County. There was an existing warehouse was only 75 feet from the building to the property line, and I watched trucks maneuver throughout that with no problem. So there's definitely a built-in conservative element to those truck circulation exhibits, but I think that the site is designed appropriately, so if there's an illegal larger truck, I'm sure it's going to be able to get through here, as Mr. Stiers had indicated based on his prior iterations of this plan.
Couple other quick questions. Obviously, based on what was happening to the site to the southwest of us, which now makes the access easement solely our access easement with really no other vehicles using it, I assume there are no issues with ingress and egress from Atrium Drive extension onto Atrium Drive.
I wouldn't think so. We looked at the highest concentration of activity where Atrium and Davidson are, and that's fine. As you go further into this area of the site, the traffic volumes are dropping off, so that internal, if you will, intersection would operate at acceptable levels of service as well.
And again, based on the testimony of the applicant this evening and also your discussions with the applicant, there is sufficient vehicle parking for this site.
Yes, based on the operations and as well as in meeting the ordinance requirement, which is conservative because it requires a separation of office calculation and warehouse. So I believe we've got 42 where 35 were required.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan. I have no further questions.
Any questions, comments from the board? Go ahead.
Your report indicated 15 angled trailer loading spaces. Was that based on the prior building?
It was. There's been a few iterations of the plan since we issued our report.
No concern with the fact that there's going to be as many as 35 employees and occasional visitors? Sufficient parking?
With the parking that is proposed, I believe it's going to accommodate the employees plus an occasional visitor.
Thank you.
What about during construction? What steps will be taken to minimize potential safety impacts on the surrounding area during construction?
That's a little bit out of my area of expertise, but I know the applicant has to meet with the building officials, right, and get a building permit. So all of the truck routing and so forth has to be established through that process.
Okay.
Franklin Township has, once the plans are approved and signed off on, before the applicant starts any work on the site, they have a pre-construction meeting with the township construction department, engineering department, and all of the truck routes for delivery, staging, and everything is all set forth in that meeting so that there's a clear understanding of what happens on the site and approaching the site. So that's typical in every application, whether it's a warehouse, a shopping center, or even a residential development.
Is there a seasonal peak expected given the nature of the business?
I think based on the operations testimony, there may be a slight uptick in the number of incoming and outgoing deliveries, but that number is not, again, a significant increase or something that is going to create a negative impact, in my opinion, based on the numbers that we're talking about.
And that seasonal impact is going to happen during which months?
The testimony was mid-October to mid-December.
Right. It's quite possible that snow could be present, right?
Sure.
Would you still say there would not be an impact considering the increase in traffic during the winter months, fall to winter months?
Well, if we're talking about snow, the applicant's going to have to plow their property to accommodate employees and deliveries, and I think that that's in their best interest if there's snow at that time of year. I mean, that's not the snowiest portion of the winter in New Jersey. It's usually February, March, but it's in their best interest to keep the lot plowed so that they can accommodate everyone.
Yeah, part of that question has to do with the minimum feet we currently have on site for maneuverability, considering that snow might be present, and how that would impact traffic flow, site distances, and the like. So any thoughts on that other than what you just stated?
Well, the testimony typically is that if there's such a huge amount of snow that it's impacting the ability to circulate the property, then it's usually hauled off-site.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right.
I was going to ask for Ms. Dolan to be excused, but you can't be because the public has the right to question her, so she'll have.
We've had 3 people speak at this point. Let's be kind and open it up to the public, and then,
It may be that you may want to hear from the architect, and then.
how many more witnesses do you?
I've got the architect and the planner, but I'm sure the architect is probably
Right.
more important, so maybe we can go through the architect and then the public, and then hear from the planner. And
Please.
the architect will be very brief.
Please don't tell architects they're more important than planners, okay? All right, Mr. Architect.
See your planner leaving when he heard that.
Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Get the
truth.
mic, sir.
So help you God.
I do.
Name and address, please.
James DeBarbieri, 97 Chestnut Street, Rutherford, New Jersey.
Can you spell your last name, please?
DeBarbieri.
Thank you.
Mr. DeBarbieri, you have not had the privilege of testifying in Franklin Township before this evening, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so very briefly, can you give the board the benefit of your educational and professional background?
I'm the senior architect and principal of DeBarbieri Architects. Got my Bachelor of Architects degree from University of Notre Dame. I received my license to practice in New Jersey in 1980. Our firm also has 10 other state licenses, including the surrounding states of New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Connecticut. Member of the American Institute of Architects and New Jersey Society of Architects. And I've appeared before many boards, planning boards and boards of adjustment in New Jersey and the surrounding states.
I would offer the testimony of Mr. DeBarbieri as an architect, Mr. Chairman.
Accepted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. DeBarbieri, the building that we are proposing was prepared in discussions with the applicant and under your direction, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the exhibit that is on the screen is a colored rendering of the building?
Yes, it is.
All right, can you briefly describe the exterior of the building, the materials that will be used to construct it, and the colors?
Okay. This building is a little unique, and in my opinion, it makes this building more architecturally pleasing. You can see the offsets in this building, and if you recall the site plan that you saw before, that's a result of the way that the Atrium Drive extension makes a curve in the road. And we have to keep our building back at certain setbacks, so what we did was we created these offsets, which is, if you're familiar with most warehouses, very unusual. But I think it brings a lot to this building in that we're able to landscape around them. You saw the nice landscaping plan that was prepared. And we're going to use them to do variations of colors across the building to give some interest to the building. You can see that we also have windows in the building, and Peter, I can get to some of the other elevations if I need to, but this one, I think, is the view that you want to see. This is the view that you'll see right from the Atrium Drive extension.
Is what we're looking at exactly what was submitted with the application?
It is not.
How is it different, so we can mark it as A3?
It's different in that this is a rendering. On our drawing A2, there is a small rendering of this, but we've enlarged this and added color to it, added the trees to it, and prepared this for exhibit at this hearing.
A3 it is. Enlarged rendering.
Okay, so what the board is seeing this evening is the entrance to the site and also the entrance to the office portion of the warehouse, is that correct?
Yeah, entrance to the office portion of the warehouse. Where the cars are shown in this rendering is where the front entrance is. I know it's a little difficult to see, but we have a two-story glass lobby. You'll come in the ground floor, and there'll be stairs and an elevator to bring you up to that administrative office mezzanine above. You can see that we provided windows for that mezzanine office above and to your left, you'll see some vertical rectangular windows. They do extend around the building on the other facades. Their purpose is to bring natural light into the warehouse themselves. So this is not, the warehouse itself is not going to be a cold, dark box.
Okay, and you indicated that there was going to be a combination of colors. Can you indicate what those colors are?
Okay, we have shown here, we want to keep it in earth tones. What you're showing here is a darker color at the entrance block of the building. Then you see the colors varying toward the warehouse portion of the building. And we just wanted to give a different color to each of these corners that we feel are an important feature of the building.
So that they are basically in the brown and cream category. Would that be a fair characterization?
That's correct. And the lightest of the colors, you can see it on the left, is the warehouse portion.
Okay, and that also is in that light beige or creamish color?
Correct.
And that extends all around the remainder of the building?
Yes.
Okay. And the windows, you indicate, also extend around the remainder of the building?
Yes.
Okay, now, where is are we proposing any mechanical equipment for either AC or heating?
Yes, these buildings have minimal mechanical equipment. The warehouse itself can be heated, and it will only be heated by two high-efficiency space heaters. Located on the roof, they're not tremendously large. They're not high. They're about 5 feet high. They are 12 feet long, about 4 feet wide. So two of those will be located. They're located more toward I'll call it the truck loading area of the building, but what we do on our warehouses is we do not put these right up at the edge of the building. We keep them back at least 50 feet from the edge. And the idea there is that then you don't see them because you have to be many hundreds of feet away before you can even see the top of these units. For the office area, we're going to also have two packaged air conditioning units to provide air conditioning and heat. Those, again, are smaller units. They're, again, about 5 feet wide, maybe 7 feet long by 4 foot in width. And they are exactly that. They're packaged units. They're rectangular boxes, basically. And they're usually painted beige in color. And again, we will keep those away from the edge of the roof.
So none of those units would be visible from somebody traveling on the ramp of 287? None of those units would be visible from somebody driving into the site along Atrium Drive Extension, in your opinion?
My opinion, no.
One last question. Is the roof going to be solar ready?
Yes. We have to, by New Jersey law now, design our roofs so that they are ready for solar panels. And this building will be designed, all of ours in the last 2 years have been designed to handle solar panels. I don't think I can commit as the architect that solar panels are going to be put on this building initially, but it will be solar ready.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Any questions from the board?
You have other renderings, sir? I'm over here.
This is the one rendering. We do have our plans that we could put up that you have in front of you if you want to look further. Okay, this is our floor plan.
Well, let me cut you off. Did you have a rendering of the other facades?
They would be on our elevations, yes. This is our drawing A2. You can see at the bottom of the sheet, that's the rendering that I mentioned before that we've just taken and added trees and added color to it. This is more of this doesn't really represent the colors as well as the rendering I showed you before, but it does show you some of the variations. The top elevation is a view from the Atrium Drive extension looking right at the front entrance. You can see what I spoke about before, about to the right of that main entrance, which is the darker area in the middle, are the windows for the administrative offices. And to the left, you can see the vertical windows that bring light into the warehouse. Craig, you're doing a good job there. Okay, then the next elevation down is the view as you're driving down Atrium Drive extension. That'll be the view that you'll be looking at, and you can see how the variation of colors there repeat, and you can better see the vertical rectangular windows there that bring light into the warehouse. The next elevation down is the warehouse that faces the DoubleTree parking lot. You can see that the truck sawtooth design is below, but we continue the facade straight across the back above that. Again, we have the windows into the warehouse. And the view on the bottom elevation, is the view from, say, 287. You can see that on the left portion of that view, we did wrap the office windows around that end and then continued with the warehouse windows. You can also see what we do with these buildings is we're doing some score lines to give the building some accent, break it up. And if you could see it closer, we have different score patterns where the front offsets are.
Were you trying to transition to Notre Dame's green? I see from there's a slow transition, all right? Is that where you're headed?
Yeah.
Okay. Not so subtle, but.
No.
Okay.
Tough watching them this year,
Yeah.
anyways.
All right. Any questions, comments? All right, Peter.
So do you want to open up to the public now? And
No,
then
we might as well keep going at this point.
Mr. O'Brien?
Thank you, sir.
Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Name and address, please.
Kevin O'Brien, Shamrock Enterprises, Madison House, Suite B, Madison Avenue in Rawway.
Have you testified previously before this board?
I've had that pleasure, Mr. Clark.
We know that. Have your credentials changed in any way since you were last accepted?
No, sir.
His vision as a planner has gone down dramatically since the last time he's appeared.
I didn't do any traffic counts today.
Okay.
Mr. O'Brien, you are familiar with the application that is before this board,
Yes, I am.
and you are familiar with the zoning ordinance and master plan of the Township of Franklin?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you are also familiar with the site where this building that is being proposed is located?
I am.
And you visited the property?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Stiers, in his testimony, identified certain variances that we are seeking in conjunction with this application. Very briefly, can you indicate what they are and then indicate to the board why the board should grant those variances?
Yes, as Mr. Stiers pointed out, there are 4 variances that are being requested this evening. The first one is the parking lot setback to Interstate 287, and I believe that that is justified by the existing greenery and the proposed landscaping. The site is adjacent to 287 southbound exit ramp onto Easton Avenue. Vehicles traveling between 30 and 40 miles an hour will traverse this site for only a few seconds. The site is basically invisible from the highway. One might notice that some of the billboards along this stretch, such as the DoubleTree, are a little bit more visible on the northbound lanes on the New Brunswick side of the river, but on the other side of the river. But it's very, very difficult to see anything from 287 or the exit ramp. And as Mr. Stiers has pointed out, that's not only a horizontal but a vertical challenge, and that this site is at a different vertical than the ramp itself and the highway. In terms of the parking lot setback to the Atrium Avenue extension, I believe that's justified by the fact that the frontage is onto a private right-of-way of our own creation. There will be no public view of the warehouse or parking from any public right-of-way. And as you've seen from the site plan, directly across from the parking lot that is facing the extension is going to be an open preserved area, an open area, treat area. The off-premises sign located on the extension and at Atrium Drive is justified because this is a wayfinding sign. Since you can't see this building from the street or from 287, in order to find it, you need to know where it is, and that's the justification for a sign. At the end of that, still, it's a private right-of-way on Atrium Drive. However, anybody coming up will come up that road via GPS or via directions, and when they get to this extension, they will know that this is the place to turn, courtesy of that sign. That's a necessity for somebody to enter this site, particularly when one gets to truckers who don't always make this particular route. You may have new ones, and they will need a sign in order to get access to the facility. The last variance is the loading space distance, which Mr. Stiers pointed out. And I believe that that is a de minimis exception to the ordinance and can be granted.
Mr. O'Brien, does the municipal land use law give any support for these variances?
Yes, it does. In the New Jersey Municipal Land Use Law, Section 40:55D-2, where the purposes of zoning are listed, there are a number that do support this application. Among them, A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use. Sorry, it's a little blurrier and then a little brighter, so my apologies for
Take your
holding this
time.
up. Thank you, Chairman. To encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in this state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. A brand-new up-to-code, up-to-ordinance building is being developed at this site, which will certainly encourage the public health and safety. Item F, to encourage the appropriate and efficient expenditure of public lands by the coordination of public development with land use policies. In this particular case, putting this development here is something that advances the land use policies of the township. Item G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of commercial and industrial uses. And this certainly does do that by providing space for this warehouse use. I, to provide a desirable visual environment. You've taken a look at the renderings for this particular warehouse. It certainly does not look like a lot of the warehouses you've seen in the past, or me. There are architectural elements to it that I think are very positive, quite nice. It's a shame nobody's going to be able to see the thing, but when people do come up that road, they are going to be very impressed by this warehouse space. And item M, to encourage coordination of the various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development to the more efficient use of the land. This is an infill development, as you know. Over the years, this larger vacant area has been filled in, and appropriately so, as it is adjacent to Interstate 287, which is where the focus of the township has been on commercial development.
Lastly, Mr. O'Brien, I assume that we are seeking approval of the variances under the flexible C2 standard?
We are indeed.
Okay, and can you indicate the benefits that outweigh the detriments, and if there is any negative impact in the grant of these variances?
Yes, in reviewing the application as a whole, along with your review of it this evening, I cannot see any negative impact to the area or to the community as a result of this application. The master plan, the land use development ordinance have already taken into consideration the activity which will be generated by this site because this is an allowed use at the time of application to the township. There will be a positive economic impact. The additional tax rateable, of course, permanent employment on site, which is going to frequent local businesses, the temporary construction employment, which will also frequent businesses, as well as the construction that's taking place on site. This is going to be a massive economic developer for this area. So therefore, I do not see a negative impact on this area or on the township.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Any questions, comments from members of the board? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien, with regard to each leg of the negative criteria, do you see any substantial detriment to the public good by granting the variances?
I do not. I would say that this application can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantial impairment to the zone plan and the zoning ordinance.
Jumped right into my next question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Leaves me with one question. When you weigh the benefits and the detriment, can you reach the conclusion, in your professional opinion, that the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments?
The benefits substantially outweigh the detriments, in my opinion, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No questions from the board. Can I get a motion to open up to the public?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion approved. Members of the public, at this point, you can come forward and ask questions of any of the witnesses.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, so they can ask questions, and I believe this would also be the time that they can make any comments as well.
Correct.
So, Mr. Clark, and I assume whoever comes up should be sworn, just in case they have
Yeah, we'll
statements?
swear each one. Thank you. Raise your right hand, sir. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Name and address, please.
Alex Strauss, 285 Hazlitt Way, Somerset. Okay, first one's kind of easy, maybe, for Mr. Pulio, actually. Given your business, would you commit to holiday time, having some nice decorations outside and on, there's going to be vegetation, et cetera? Would you commit to doing that, that could also be enjoyed by people in the surrounding hotels, et cetera?
Are you referring to our site?
Yes.
Decorating our site?
Yes, well, because you're going to have some vegetation anyway put up.
Sure.
Would you want it, or on the building, I don't know, but something,
Yes.
something to make it look, you know,
Absolutely. If the town ordinances allow it for decorating on commercial buildings, we'd be more than happy to do that.
right, okay, good.
Can we put our artificial trees out there?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'm assuming that might be a statement that the applicant's making, but it can't be a condition of the
Right.
board's approval.
Yeah,
Right.
that's-
I would not make it a condition.
Yes.
Now, as far as the, I guess for Mr. Stiers, was any attempt at all, given the fact that they're hotels, et cetera, this is at the same grade, right? I mean, it's not at all dug out or underneath or anything like that, you know, that might shield some of the noise. It's at the same grade, right, as the hotels, I guess? Is it more or less?
It's down a little bit, and there is a bit of a berm between the parking lot of the hotel and the driveway on the southerly side of the hotel.
The hotel, you mean the Hampton, right?
Hampton, correct.
Okay, but nothing as far as the DoubleTree or the parking lot or anything like that? You know?
It is down a few feet from the DoubleTree.
Down a few feet, okay, thank you. Also, I guess for, well, Mr. DeBarbery and maybe as well as Mr. Stiers, Mr. O'Brien, et cetera, was any attempt at all made as far as to have the truck area on the, I guess it would, looking at the map, the right side, in other words, closer to the traffic, the white noise, et cetera, and maybe maybe would have to truncate the building on that side, but maybe add some building on the top. You know, in other words, have the truck area along the exit 10, 287 South, you know, that might buffer some of the noise, you know, rather than maybe a 6 or 7 a.m. wake-up call. I mean, trucks might come in earlier than 7 even, and you're talking about people staying in hotels. So was any attempt made to have a truck area? I know you don't want trucks going through a fence and onto the exit ramp, but was any attempt made to have the truck area on that side of the building?
I think early on it was. However, the 287 portion of the property is a front yard. So you would be putting, the loading docks in the front yard. And the other thing is, in our discussions with the township staff, they wanted the site buffered from 287. So you don't want the loading docks facing, you want the nice side facing the public, which is that side facing 287 is one of the nicer sides of the building. So we were, I guess you could say, trying to buffer the loading docks from the public.
Okay. Would that be, so you're going for, would that be choosing, say, aesthetics over noises that might accrue to the hotel guests, you know, trading kind of, you know?
Well, I'm not going to testify as far as the noise, but you do have the traffic on 287 is pretty
Right,
substantial.
Right, but that's more like white noise, right, as opposed to,
That's a matter of opinion.
okay. All right. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for always coming out to be present at these meetings and comment. Thank you. Others? Members of the public, anyone else coming forward?
I think everybody else is part of my team.
Oh, okay, you tried to outnumber us tonight. Yeah, it's not a good look, Peter, it's not a good look. Yeah.
After what I've been through for the last year, I need it.
We'll give you that since we're close to Christmas. All right. So, seeing no one come forward, can I get a motion?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, on you, Peter.
As I indicated in the beginning, this is a little different application than the board has seen previously with respect to these warehouses. I think bringing in this company to the township is a long-term benefit. It is permitted. The variances that we are seeking are not substantial variances. They've been justified both by the testimony of Mr. Stiers and the testimony of Mr. O'Brien. I think if you look at this site, it is well screened, it is well protected, and to some degree, I think Mr. O'Brien made the right point. It's a shame we have such a nice building that probably nobody will see it because it's tucked back in away from everything. But I think this is the perfect location for this use, and I would respectfully request that the board grant the site plan approval with the related variances. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Would you like me to do the conditions,
I
Mr.
would.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Compliance with Mr. Healy's report, compliance with the CME report, compliance with the Sewerage Authority report, compliance with the no idling comment in the Environmental Commission report, no retail sales, limit the size of the trucks to the WB 62, add the bicycle racks, make the building solar ready, and then our standard conditions.
I think just a few more. No assembly, I think, was one. If you
I'm
hadn't
sorry,
got that.
thank you, Mark, no assembly.
The solar ready.
Got that.
And the earth tones that were indicated on that exhibit A3. I think that was something that they added on that exhibit.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ted, just to be clear, your motion included those, correct?
Yes.
I second it.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any, before we go there, any discussion, any further amendments, any debate? No? Okay, let's move.
Theodore Chase,
Yes.
Jennifer Ragnow,
Yes.
Charles Brown,
Yes.
Robert Thomas.
Yes, and I'd like to compliment the architect on the unique design. It's too bad all the architects of all the warehouses we've been getting couldn't take a more original approach like that.
Rebecca Hilbert.
Yes.
All right, the motion has passed. I too, great job on the architecture there. All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. All right, at this point, we do not have any committee reports, work session, or new business. Right, Mark? No new business?
That's correct.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. See you at the next planning board meeting.